Today I want to try and build a completely custom apartment building from scratch in The Sims 4. And this is kind of weird because you can't actually do that. Like, you can't build functional apartments in this game. You could in the older Sims games, but not in The Sims 4 for some reason. So when you want to play in an apartment, you've got the options of like the real functional ones from City Living and Eco Lifestyle, or you could kind of go this route where you just build something and like pretend it's an apartment. So here's kind of what I'm talking about. You can see that I'm starting this on a big empty lot in San Myshuno. This is actually where that karaoke bar used to be, but I bulldozed it, and instead I'm creating like a big giant 4-story building that I'm sort of aiming to have look very similar to the buildings nearby, like all those fake buildings in the world that are next to it. And then in this building I'm gonna make like an apartment lobby and like a little shared gym space. I'm gonna have a little rooftop, and then it's gonna have only one proper furnished apartment. So if you were to play in this lot, the game would think that you own the entire building and like the entire house is your house, but we're sort of pretending that just that one little apartment on the second floor is gonna be ours. Again, it's kind of weird, and like I said, takes some pretending to make it function properly, but it does work. It's just gonna have like really expensive bills and a lot of random empty space, and also you won't have any neighbors. But, you know, maybe that's similar to real life. I guess in real life you'd have probably very annoying neighbors. At least in The Sims you do. And, you know, the really expensive bills here in the city, that checks out, right? But yeah, when I finished building this, the lot itself ended up being like, I don't know, close to 150,000 simoleons. And obviously it's just a small 2-bedroom apartment when I finished. So that's, you know, a little bit less than ideal, but that's fine. I also made a fire escape down the outside. There's like a little rooftop sort of hangout space on the second floor there. You can see that little bump out. It's gonna have its own little rooftop. I also made use of a lot of platforms in this building to try and make everything fit properly. Overall, it was a nightmare trying to get everything to work right, but I think it turned out looking really pretty, and I think it matches the neighbors' buildings really well too. I actually built this for the Not So Berry challenge. I've been playing Not So Berry on my Twitch channel. It's kind of a weird legacy challenge. I mean, I wrote it, so I can say that, but basically it's where you have to play through 10 generations of the same family, but each generation has a different color theme and a bunch of different rules for each gen. So in generation 2, it's rose theme, so everything is red. So the sim is supposed to be like wearing all red and having red hair. That's kind of up to you though, but all of their traits are red, and then going off of those traits, I chose like different careers and different things that would fit them. So the Gen 2 sim is supposed to be a politician, they're a serial romantic, they have to max the charisma skill, stuff like that is kind of the goal for this generation. So I figured that living in the city would be kind of fun to do. Just for my own personal gameplay though, I've been doing a lot of really wacky things with this family, so I kind of needed to provide myself with like ample space for them. For example, in this family that I've been playing, I have killed a significant number of Sims, like we're talking like probably 30 or more, in this pond full of piranhas that I keep in my backyard. And I don't really want to live without the piranha pond. Like, it's been so much fun for me that I don't want to move somewhere that doesn't have the pond. Well, you can't very well put the pond in like a regular apartment, so I instead chose to build my own apartment and put the pond there. A little bit extreme, but I won't lie, my true intentions were because of the pond. Like almost entirely because of that pond. So I'm just here to be honest with you. That's the real reason I built this. I also have a lot of graves. Like in this family, I'll show you later, but in this family, I keep like all of my gravestones just out in my front yard, like in a big giant pile. And I'm on the 12th generation now of this family. So as you can probably imagine, I have a lot of graves just like naturally from, you know, natural sim death causes, but also a lot of graves from that pond and other such reasons. I've started kind of collecting them. I bring them home with me. Like for example, some guy died at the restaurant the other day. I brought his grave home. I didn't know him. He just died of old age there. I brought it home with me. So I wanted a lot like this instead of a regular apartment so that I could keep those people in my front yard. I know that's bad. I didn't put the graves on this lot. So if you choose to download this, it is grave free. It does have the piranha pond though, which is a little bit odd. There's like a random pond in the backyard, but that's fine. That's fine. You can see now the actual building is sort of taking shape a little bit better too. You can kind of tell what I was going for with the shape of the building. And I think you can also see how I sort of was drawing inspiration from those buildings nearby and how I was kind of trying to mimic the shape a little bit so that it would hopefully match a tiny bit better. I did actually do a couple of sort of weird things in the downstairs of this building because you know, you probably wouldn't have like as fancy of a lobby as you do in this building in real life. This is kind of almost like hotel-esque in the lobby, but I wanted to actually have something down there because I made my sim have their apartment on the second floor. So I wanted to at least do something with the first floor. So I ended up putting like a little lobby sort of front desk down in the downstairs. I also put a gnome carrying a briefcase full of money sitting at that desk. And in my head, that gnome is the landlord. Greedy, money-hungry, bag of money carrying landlord sitting there in the front. There's also like some vending machines downstairs, and I put like a shared gym space downstairs on that first floor. I don't think that would be that out of the ordinary either to have like a shared gym space. I would have probably put shared laundry down there too, but I just decided that I didn't want to play with laundry, so I didn't put any in. But you probably could put like a laundry room here too if you wanted to. I will say that I found doing the first floor of this build so unbelievably annoying. You'll probably notice that as I'm messing with like the freezes and the platforms, it was so infuriating trying to get them to work because it just kept glitching over and over and over again. So I was really trying, but also really getting frustrated by the freezes and stuff in here. In the end, I managed to get a staircase upstairs and then staircases to all of the different floors. But like I said, the only actual furnished spaces are that first floor and then half of the second floor. You could totally furnish more of the apartment if you wanted to, but I just knew it was so expensive already, and I knew I wasn't going to personally play in the other apartments, so I just chose to leave them empty. There are a couple of ways that you could do this, like if you wanted to pretend to have neighbors, because the way that I'm going to play in this, it's gonna be like my sim and her daughter, and that's it, living here. So kind of going off of that, if you wanted to maybe have like your sim and their daughter, but then also like a second household who just happens to be in your household of like maybe an old couple, then you could have all four of those sims that you're actively playing with, and you can just pretend they live in the two different units. That's totally doable. That's totally playable. It's honestly kind of fun to play the game like that. I guess you could also probably use the roommate feature from University for this. You could like build another apartment, lock the doors, and set the beds properly so that they can't get into yours, but they can access their own, and then just pretend that they're living in that apartment and then, you know, also paying rent. The issue that I found with that is that the bills are so expensive and your roommates really do not subsidize the cost enough. Like, if we did that here, the lot would be even more, maybe even like 20,000 simoleons more expensive, and then you'd get like 80 simoleons a week from a fake roommate. So you'd have like the nice gameplay of having neighbors, but you'd also have to worry about paying for it, and I'm not cheating for money in this, so I was kind of wary a little bit myself. But for you, if you wanted to make something similar and like do your own fake apartment building gameplay, you could do something like that too. I so wish that you could properly build real apartments from scratch in this game, because you could in The Sims 3. There's also cheats to like edit the windows and stuff in The Sims 3 if you wanted to, and I definitely took advantage of those. But in The Sims 3, there was like room markers that you could use. So you'll see there's like obviously a whole bunch of floors, like 3 different floors of space that I'm not using in this building that are just there, just for like decoration. So in The Sims 3, I could have like set those room markers to have them like completely blacked out and like set it as somebody else's apartment, and that would be so much easier for this kind of gameplay. But instead, I'm just completely pretending to have an apartment that isn't an apartment. As far as the game is concerned, this is a mansion. Like a giant mansion is what this house is, and that was not my intention at all. You'll probably also notice a lot of red that I'm doing on the inside of the apartment. Again, it's for the Not So Berry challenge, at least for my personal gameplay. So the person who's going to live here is like the red gen of Not So Berry. So I have a lot of red themed things in here. Also like some stuff for the politician career and things like that. And then their child is going to be the yellow gen. So I do have one kid's room that's like very yellow and very science-y themed, because that yellow gen child is going to end up being an astronaut. So you'll notice a couple like maybe odd decor choices that I made, but I swear I had good reason. And keep in mind, I left out my gravestones. I could have put them here. I could have put you through that, and I chose not to. So really, you should be thanking me for not including my graves in this build. So the apartment itself, like the actual unit that I'm going to be playing in, is 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and it also has a balcony, but then right next to it is like the hallway that goes out to that second floor, like the rooftop space. So we kind of have like 2 balconies, just one of them isn't private. One of them is supposed to be shared with the building, except it's only me in the building, so really it is mine, but I'm gonna pretend that other people are gonna use it. I know, this whole thing is so silly. So much pretending has to go into a gameplay situation like this, but it's fun for me, if not a little bit odd. I will admit that. As I'm watching this build video, I'm like thinking back on what was happening when I actually built this, So I live streamed this build on Twitch. I stream every day on Twitch, always. I play a lot of The Sims, obviously, in case you didn't notice. I kind of play a lot of The Sims. But for the entire month of May, we raised money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital on my Twitch channel, and we ended up raising $366,000 just on my Twitch channel. $366,000. And I built this on stream, like while raising money, obviously. This was one of the more normal things that we did last month on stream. Actually, yesterday, I guess it's today for me, but yesterday for you, I did a Katy Perry baking stream as one of my charity incentives. I promised I would if we raised $250,000 for St. Jude, and we raised $360,000 for St. Jude. So yesterday, I dressed up as Katy Perry, like from the Sweet Treats cover, you know, the pack from The Sims 3, the Katy Perry one. I dressed up like her from the Sweet Treats cover, and then I baked cupcakes on stream. It's weird talking about it like this because as I'm recording this, I haven't actually done it yet. I'm gonna be doing it in like 3 hours. But yeah, that happened. I'll show you. I'll make sure I include some pictures on Twitter or something so that you can see. But I don't know, we do a lot of interesting things on my stream. So if you want to pop in, it's just twitch.tv/lilsimsie, and I'm there every day. So if you like The Sims, if you like Katy Perry, I guess, I will say I don't usually stream like Katy Perry. That's not like a frequent occurrence on my channel, believe it or not. Anyway, so now you can see that I've really I've expanded out the apartment. I've kind of taken over like almost the entire second floor. There is a small amount of space that does not belong to me anymore, but that's fine. We can pretend that my neighbor has a really small apartment in that little tiny black room, and that's fine. I really did take over the whole floor. In my mind, I wanted to make sure my Sims lived on the second floor for this, because I was just thinking logically about gameplay and how annoying it'll be to go up and down all of those stairs. So I was like, yeah, second floor. Second floor will do. That is the best we can do. Because it might be like nicer to have a higher floor apartment, but I don't know. Second floor is nicer for actual practical gameplay. And the other weird thing is that there is an elevator in this building. I put it down in the lobby space, but you have to keep in mind that it doesn't function. Like there is no real elevator function in The Sims 4. We have them because you have to put one on your penthouse lots in San Myshuno, but you can't actually use them. There's no animations involved. And you also can't have more than one on a lot. So I couldn't have like a realistic elevator shaft that goes like up the entire building because it just doesn't function in The Sims. So there's an elevator there purely for visuals on the first floor and then doesn't do anything on the second floor, which is odd, makes no sense. I probably could have put like the shaft continuing up just to pretend, but I decided that it wasn't worth it. I'd rather have my bathroom there. So I just didn't do it. But if you saw that and you were like, wait a minute, hang on, isn't there an elevator? Or like, why didn't you use an elevator? It's because you can't, because it's The Sims 4. Everything in this video is just, we can't do it normally because it's The Sims 4, so we have to do this, this, and this to work around it. Have you caught on? That's kind of the theme here today, is workarounds and pretending. It's the only way. Well, in this main bedroom though, I really enjoyed what I did, like decoration wise. The whole apartment is very like red, black, and almost like a mauvey pink color. And I loved that like main bedroom here because I put that huge, big wraparound like L-shaped desk. I also put like a nice computer. There's a little fish bowl, just a couple like cutesy decorative things that I thought I would probably enjoy using. That L-shaped desk, by the way, is another thing that isn't actually necessary in the game. Like you don't actually need an L-shaped desk. Your Sims won't use an L-shaped desk, but you have to pretend. And I did pretend. And I think it looks cute, but you know, yet again, we're playing pretend here in The Sims 4. That is pretty much the entire main bedroom finish though. I did also furnish that kid's bedroom like I talked about, and that one is all yellow themed. So keep in mind, the main Sim, the red Sim, is gonna be a politician, and then their child is gonna be an astronaut. So I wanted to have like a kind of space themed yellow science room. Like that was my few requirements for this kid's room. I will say that in my actual gameplay, this child has not even been born yet. Nobody's pregnant. Like even the red Sim is still a teenager. Like no one has grown up yet. I'm thinking very far in advance of when I'm going to move in here and actually play in it. But when I do, I'm gonna be ready, okay? I will be ready when it's time. Do any of you play like that? Do you like think really far in advance and like plan out your Sims lives? Or am I weird for that? I don't know. I guess I do play The Sims a little bit obsessively. Dare I say, it has worked out for me because, well, I'm doing this for a job. So my Sims obsession has kind of benefited me, but I will admit that sometimes it's, you know, a little on the extreme side, but whatever. Anyway, the build is almost done. We're kind of wrapping up the last few finishing touches and final details. I think I want to pop into game after this finishes and show you like the actual apartment up close and kind of walk you through what I was thinking, because I realized, like I said, it's a little bit weird and it might need some explanation for it to make sense. So let's do that. Let's pop into the game and I'll show you it live, real time. So I built this apartment here on this lot, that Waterside Warble lot where the karaoke bar used to be. And again, the game just thinks it's a house. It's a 164,000 simoleon house as far as the game is concerned. And we are merely pretending that it's an apartment building. And we simply are living in one of the units, even though there are no other units. So here is the finished exterior of the building. I did a lot to try and make it look a little bit more normal and like blend into the surroundings. For example, we need to functionally have a mailbox, but I didn't want to put like a regular mailbox, and we don't have like a proper mail room sort of thing. So I put this little like outgoing mail thing and then put our little wall mailbox right next to it to kind of hide it almost, and then also sort of justify it being there. There's also like trees everywhere. I put some billboard advertising on the side of the building. There's like this little space back here to have some dumpsters. We got fire hydrants. On this side of the building, we have that fire escape we talked about. There's also a little bike right here. I put a little tiny parking lot in as well, and like a little parking meter to pay for it. I love this rooftop section because it's got those fairy lights and also like some tables and a grill. It has this little thing. It's not technically a fire pit, but in game, like there's flames that come out of it. And I also put some gardens because I kind of want to start using this like when my sim actually lives here. This is that pond I was talking about. Again, this part makes very little sense. I won't lie. I don't have much justification for this other than just the fact that I need it. So I put it there. You are welcome to delete that. You do not have to keep this pond. I did put some warning things to try and block you from going near it, but I personally need this pond for my own gameplay. So I snuck it in the back there. And then this is the whole rest of the building. And then when you actually come inside, like I said, it's kind of weird. It's not super normal for like a regular apartment. It does kind of have more like hotel vibes to me, but I just wanted to have something going on downstairs instead of just like it being empty, because the whole rest of the building is empty. As you can see, the top floors are just completely not there. So I wanted to do something with it. And what I settled on was this little tiny like desk space for the landlord, kind of like an office space front desk thing for them. I had a lot of fun decorating this, and also the existence of this man really amuses me. That's the little money hungry gnome. So he's just vibing at his computer. He's got a pile of bills and a little nameplate, and he's having a great time. I also put some vending machines here and like some little coffee and stuff like that. And then back here is like a community gym that we can all access. Like I said, I probably would have put laundry down here too, but I decided that I didn't want to play with laundry, so I chose to leave it out. This here is that elevator that doesn't actually function, but it looks like it functions. So we have that there. And then these, I was sort of imagining that this could be like the mail. I know it doesn't actually function like mail. These are actually filing cabinets, but in my mind, they looked a little bit like mail slots. They're very similar to the mailbox that I have where I live, so I was just trying to pretend that these filing cabinets were the mail room. And then up these stairs, we've got this little hallway space where there's, you know, 2 apartments. There's one to the right and then one to the left. We also have a little trash can right here, like a community sort of cork board. This is a door to that like outdoor rooftop space. And then this door takes you into the actual apartment that I actually furnished. We've got a little TV area. There's 2 bathrooms in here, 2 bedrooms. I love the look of this kitchen like so much. I was so pleased with this. We also have a little balcony that has like some yoga and a little table. I planted a tomato plant because my sim's name is Tomato. So I thought it was funny to have a tomato plant for them. And overall, I think this apartment turned out actually really cute. I'm kind of excited to play in it, but you know, the rest of the place is just empty. There isn't even a staircase to the 4th floor. I didn't even put a staircase up there. It's just nothing. But if you actually chose to play here, you could totally furnish like this apartment for like your grandma and then have them all live in one household, but in separate houses. It's odd, but it would work. Anyway, I did have fun building this. I wish that we could build real apartments, but I think this is gonna work for what I need it to. And it was fun to try and build it because it's very different from the usual things that I build, like the usual little suburban houses that I make. It is on my gallery if you want to download it. My name is just lilsimsie on the gallery. And with that being said, I will stop rambling at you and I will leave. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody. You know what? I think the best part is the view of the water, and your Sims don't even realize that. They don't even care. They have this like amazing, incredible real estate, and yet not a care in the world. A view like that, and you don't even look at it.